Hey everyone, I'm Sophia with Awaken Catholic, and this is Awaken the Saints. Leaders of men are tragically often remembered for their misdeeds rather than their good deeds. Those who have power often fear losing that power, and in that fear, they do terrible things. But not every king is a tyrant, as proven by today's saint, Eric IX of Sweden. Eric's life, much like the period in which he lived, was not very well documented. He was born in Sweden around the year 1120 or a little later, but if there were records in his earlier years committed to writing, none have survived to the present day. His reign as King of Sweden, though not as well chronicled as we might hope, at least stood the test of time, though the lines between legend and history may be blurred in some cases. By and large, Eric was remembered in his time as an intelligent and righteous ruler. He was known for amassing a collection of all the ancient laws and codes of his kingdom and putting them together in one work, which became known as King Eric's Law. He was also remembered for his generosity, kindness, and faith. He spent a great deal of time in prayer, showed concern and care for those who were suffering, and often distributed alms to the poor. A popular part of his legend states that Eric went to a crusade against Finland, which at the time was pagan. The full extent of his campaign isn't clear, but a surviving statement from Pope Alexander III suggests that the Finns constantly went back and forth between accepting Christianity and violently persecuting Christians, depending on whether or not there was an army on their doorstep. While Eric was considered by many to be a great and worthy ruler, he was still a king, and there were those who, for various reasons, wanted to see him removed. Chief among these were Magnus II, one of several men who claimed a right to the throne of Sweden. In the year of 1160, on the Feast of the Ascension, Eric was attending Mass, where he was informed that Magnus had assembled a large force and was marching toward him. Despite the apparent threat on his life, he would not leave in the middle of the celebration and remained until Mass was over. He then took what few guards he had and met Magnus's force, marching ahead of his own men. His enemies surrounded him and pulled him from his horse. They struck repeatedly while he was on the ground with weapons and taunts before he was finally beheaded. Having killed Eric, Magnus now ruled over the large part of Sweden, but his kingship would be brief and fruitless, lasting only a year. The Swedes soon rose up in rebellion and killed him. Eric was buried in the old Uppsala church, where he had gone to Mass just before his death. His son Canute spearheaded the movement in celebrating him as a martyr, and he is to this day venerated as the patron saint of Sweden. His likeness can be found on the coat of arms in the capital of Stockholm. Eric's reign lasted only 4 short years, but he was considered a hero to many, and remains a symbol of wise and virtuous kingship. His life shows us that power and influence doesn't have to end in corruption for those who wield it. By clinging to the guiding principles of the faith, a leader can become a good shepherd, walking ahead of his flock and guiding them to safety. Saint Eric of Sweden, pray for us.